Welcome to 20 Minutes with Mike, brought to you by Legal Ease, the ultimate guide on how to survive a law practice. The Chastain Law Office of Gold River, California, and Barking Frogs, your best source for race swag. Go bigger and louder. Now here's your host, Mike Chastain.
Well, welcome to 20 Minutes with Mike. I'm so pleased that you're joining us today. I think I've got a very interesting show today. We are going to be talking about getting back to basics. All right, so let's get started because we only got 20 minutes today. So as is often the case, this show is inspired by a new book that I'm reading, and that book is Business Made Simple by Donald Miller. I literally have just started, so I'm not going to be able to give a review today on it. But there's a couple things about this book that I think are make it very valuable, and I think it will be very valuable. I'm really looking forward to it. One, he has a whole video series that goes along with the book, and basically he takes you through a number of steps to teach you the basic things that you need to know to be a successful entrepreneur, to run a business, or to be a really, really valuable employee. And it works. It doesn't matter if you own your own business. Obviously, you wear a bunch of hats. You need to be a good leader. You need to be a good businessman. And generally, unless you're running quite a large, business, you probably have to be pretty good at the skill set as well. So, for example, as a lawyer, in order to run a good law firm, especially if you're small, you need to be a good lawyer. That will really help. If you're a really horrible lawyer, how are you going to teach other people to handle that skill set? But what Donald Miller talks about, he talks about leadership, he talks about productivity, he talks about running a business, how to get your message across to people, how to communicate, sales. Big issue. One of the things that's been interesting in my firm over the years is, especially with lawyers, is hiring lawyers. And it turns out that they really don't want to do sales. They really don't want to do sales. I've had several lawyers who, decided to go somewhere else because they just simply didn't want to do sales. And I get that. When I came out of the public defender's office, the idea of selling just didn't really sit very well. But then I sat back and I kind of looked at, well, what do I do all day? What I really do is I sell, right? I'm selling to the DA, I'm selling to judges, I'm selling to juries, not monetary transactions, but I'm selling concepts and ideas. I'm selling, this guy should go to a rehab program as opposed to going to prison. This guy should, I'm trying to sell a legal concept. It's all sales at the end of the day, right? You are trying to convince somebody to your way of thinking. You want them to, quote, buy the idea that this client should go to rehab as opposed to go to jail, or that, he should only do 10 days as opposed to 20 days, or that the fine should be reduced. It really is, if you really break it down, it really is sales. And so, once I kind of wrap my head around that, I realized that sales is what we do, and I can't help clients unless they hire me. And if I'm not communicating to them about what we can actually provide, then I'm not going to be able to help them. So the thing kind of boils down to, at the end of the day, is I want to be able to help people, and the more people I can help, the better. I can't help people if they won't let me. And in this particular situation, I can't help people unless they hire me, because then, they're not going to be, I'm not going to be able to represent them. So this book is very interesting. I will get back to you all about, uh, what my ultimate opinion is, my critique on this. But this really kind of hones in on what I want to talk about today, which is getting back to basics. Before I get there, I did want to just take a quick talk about Stealing Fire. I spoke about this book last week. Um, Phenomenal book. That's really what I can say. It was a national bestseller. You know, I don't know why I hadn't heard about it. It was published in 2017. I'm sorry that I didn't know about this sooner. I wish I had. Uh, Phenomenal information in here about peak performance. How do you get into peak performance? Now, they call that altered states. But really what it is how are you, how are you playing above your head? How are you in the flow? You know, if you've ever been an athlete, if you've ever especially been a competitive athlete, you probably know about the flow. Those days where you're running or you're swimming or you're biking or whatever it is that you're doing, and it's just so effortless. You might have gotten involved in that in other things. I know sometimes when I was writing, when I was writing my book, the Legalese, the Ultimate Guide on How to Survive a Law Practice, there were times where 2 hours just went by and the paper was just full. It just was kind of gushing out. That's the flow. And it talks about ways that you can um, achieve the flow, and then some of the downsides to it. Everything comes with a cost, right? Nothing is free. um, Everything has a cost. So the cost might be time, the cost might be effort, the cost might be for adrenaline rushes. For extreme athletes in particular, the cost could be your life. When I was doing adventure racing, there were times where I was scared to death that you know that I wouldn't make it. Um, so there are costs, time, money, effort. But in any event, so it goes through that. It talks about the uses, the abuses. Anyway, I highly recommend Stealing Fire. Phenomenal book. I was really really. I just finished it today. I've been really working on it. I probably am going to read it again. It was that good, and I definitely recommend it. All right, so let's talk about getting back to basics. Um, Vince Lombardi was one of the best football coaches of all time. Won numerous championships, won the first two Super Bowls with the Green Bay Packers, when he had, Bart Starr and Paul Hornung. And, I mean, it was old time football, in the 60s, but a phenomenal coach. And one of the things that made Vince Lombardi such a great coach is he was always dealing with the basics, right? Um, Blocking and tackling, blocking and tackling. You cannot win a football game without blocking and tackling. You can have the greatest quarterback in the world, you can have the best running back in the world, you can have the greatest wide receivers, but if you don't have guys blocking and tackling, you will lose that game. There's a very famous story. John Wooden, who was the basketball coach for UCLA. And John Wooden, I mean, if you read any of his books, he talks about the basics, right? He starts with the basics, and he coached guys like, Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, and an activist now. I mean, just from by all accounts that I'm aware of, just a tremendous guy. Um, those are the kinds of people that he was coaching, right? Bill Walton, people like that. But and so you don't get to UCLA. You're not playing UCLA basketball without having been, super successful in high school and having a lot of talent. Notwithstanding all of that, what does John Wooden do the very first day? He teaches his players how to tie their shoes. He teaches them how to tie their shoes. Now, why does he do that? Because it's one of the basic things, having a shoestring come out and you tripping over it, or having your shoes not fit properly, or not laced up properly, and you get blisters. That could be a really long game. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure everybody's had blisters on their feet, but I will tell you, having raced for days with blisters, they will really, really slow you down. The bottom line is, it's not about the tying of the shoes. It's about getting to the basics. So the question is, for us, right, as regular entrepreneurs, it is really easy to get all caught up in all of the high tech, and we're working remotely, and we're doing stuff on Zoom, and we're using all of this technology, and we're constantly being bombarded with technology. But at the end of the day, um uh and periodically, in my opinion, you need to get back to the basics. You need to step back and go, okay, let's reevaluate. Let's see where we are. Um, and the first question I think that you should always be asking when you're going back to the basics is, what do you want? What do you want? Right? What do you want out of what either your business, um, and we're going to talk. What do you want the business to do? What do you want the business to achieve? That's really different than what do you want. So let me just give you an example. If what you want is you personally to make a ton of money, but you want your business to be a nonprofit, well, those two things probably don't go to hand in hand. You know, does the business that you're running have the ability to achieve what you want? Let's say you want lots of free time. Let's say you want to be able to take a month off every year. You want to travel around the world. You don't want to work weekends. You want to go home at 5 o'clock. Let's say that's what you really want because you're playing in a band, and you're trying to do gigs or whatever. I'm kind of describing to a certain extent, the life that I want to develop, right? Um, so then the question is the industry that I'm in, is the work that I'm doing conducive to that? Can I run a law practice and take a month off? Yeah, but there's a cost to it. I mean, a significant cost to it. And because I've done it, where when I traveled to Australia, or I traveled to Montana, and I did these long 10-day races. At the end of the day, you wind up taking about a month. um, there's a lot of cost to it. And I don't mean just money costs. I mean, shutting down the practice, and having to, not take clients, and, just having your practice kind of come to a standstill. Now I'm in better shape now for that than I was many years ago. But, you know, is what you want conducive to your business? Or said another way, is your business conducive to get you where you want? Is it the vehicle that will get you where you want? Um, and I think that's an important thing to consider from time to time. Is the job that you have, or is the business that you're running, conducive to get you where you want? If you want to be a millionaire, um, which is a noble goal, and it's probably obtainable in most businesses, um, but is the business that you have going to get you there? Have you sat down and done the math and figured out, okay, how many widgets do you need to sell? How many clients do you need to have? What kind of clients do you need to have? Are you charging the right amount? So the first thing, again, just to kind of back up, what do you want? What you wanted, what I wanted 10 years ago is different than I want now, because I'm 60 now. I was 50 then. I'm in a different place in my life. What do you want? Maybe you're right out of law school, and I was right out of law school, graduate from law school on my 25th birthday, passed the bar, first time, thank goodness. Um, Still have nightmares about that, whether it was Mike, it was a big mistake. But in any event, I'm sure anybody who's taken the bar had that, or maybe still does. But in any event, so what I wanted when I was 25 is dramatically different than what I want today. Do you have the business that will get you there, to allow you to achieve what your end goal is? Um, and if you do have the business, then the next question you have to ask yourself is, do you have the staff that will get you there? And do they have the skill sets? Now, um, I think that this is really an important issue, and this is an issue that we run across, on a regular basis. Is that we have really sharp people. We really, we hire the best people, and we really like the people that we hire. But sometimes they don't come to us with the right skill sets, or they don't come to us with a fully developed skill set. And then the onus is on me to train them. And if I'm not paying attention, if I'm not getting back to basics, I'm not working on the blocking and the tackling, then those skill sets will diminish, right? So I tell my team this all the time, and I truly believe it. Life is a big bell curve, right? When you first start doing something, when you're learning something, learning to play the guitar, or learning to play the bass, or learning a new skill, usually you have a pretty quick uptake. Your improvement is quick, um, and then you begin to plateau. You get to a certain place where you are doing, each incremental improvement is harder and harder. And if you take your foot off the gas, if you stop the training, if you stop, really focusing on that, you'll start going down the other side and your skill set will reduce. When you're training somebody, recognize they don't get 100% of what you say. Um, in large part because it may be a communication problem. What you're saying may not be resonating with them. They may not understand it. I mean, my staff is, especially my lawyers, is a different generation than I am. And I mean, removed by a couple generations. So, what I am finding, much to my chagrin, is that the things that work for me, the things that I think are important, and the examples that I use don't always resonate with people, um, and they're not hearing me. Uh, and that's my fault. Okay, so this comes back to it. If I'm the leader, if I'm the owner, if it's my business, I'm responsible for making sure that the training is going well. And if they're not hearing me, if they are not performing, then the first place I got to look is myself. And it's really, that is not an easy thing. I will just tell you, it's certainly not an easy thing for me. I don't want to be at fault. I don't want to be the bad guy. I told them to do whatever, and now I'm realizing, okay, it was really a failure to communicate. And that old Cool Hand Luke movie, and the words in there, what we have here is a failure to communicate. I don't like it any more than you do, right? And then Paul Newman goes into the box. Uh, if you're the leader, you need to communicate. And if you fail to communicate, then you need to step back and go, okay, where is the failure? Now, at some point in time, certainly the employees need to pick it up. I mean, at some point in time, it just may not be the right fit. I suppose it would be the thing if you can't communicate with your employees. But the first place that you need to look is yourself. There's a great book called Extreme Ownership. And when I read that, sometimes I got to go back to the basics. I got to look at, okay, if there is a problem in my business, or if there's a problem in my life, the first place I got to always look is back at myself. I got to look in the mirror and go, okay, where did I screw up? And that is easier said than done. And it's certainly not easy for me. There are times where that is really, really a struggle. I don't want to take the blame. I don't want to take the responsibility. But as he tells me, I got to put my big boy pants on. And sometimes I've got to look at, okay, I dropped the ball. I screwed up. And then I got to own it. And now I got to fix it. Um, so the point of today's show really is get back to the basics, own what's going on, and that means training, never let your foot off the gas. Keep working with your folks so that they have the skill sets that you need, so that your business can achieve what you want it to achieve. So ultimately um, you can get what you want out of it. So that's kind of the bottom line. Vince Lombardi worked constantly tackling and blocking and tackling, blocking and tackling. Is your business struggling because you're not teaching blocking and tackling? If you're not teaching the basics, then you need to go back and take a look and go, okay, well, where do we fall down? Today is always a great day to start over. Okay, you are never so far into it that you can't start over, that you can't fix the problem. So, I'm going to just encourage you, think about it, own it, and then go forward and fix the problem, get back to basics if you're having a problem. And if you're not, if everything is going swimmingly, don't sit on your laurels and think that it will always go that way, because things will change. So sticking with the basics, blocking and tackling, blocking and tackling. All right, the buzzer just went off. We're at our 20 minutes. I hope you find this helpful. Sometimes these are life lessons that are hard, um, but life isn't easy, right? Life is never easy. Uh, you got to keep working at it. So, everybody, I hope you have a great week. I hope everybody had a great Easter. And just remember, be grateful for what you have and be willing to work for what you want. All right. Everybody take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.